What if I told you everything you've ever been told about selling and marketing was a complete lie? And all the problems you're currently facing, low conversion rates, no trust, and constantly getting compared to the competition, could all be solved if you just made one simple switch in your selling formula. Hi, my name is Vuk Sturkovic. I'm an online marketer and an expert in psychology-based persuasion. I spent the last half a decade of my life studying from some of the most infamous, most successful, and profitable multi-million-dollar brands on the planet. And this is my full masterclass on selling and marketing. With that being said, let's just get right into it. Alright, so the first thing we have to talk about is the way you view selling. Because chances are, if you're like most people, you believe that selling equals making your product sound good. And if this is you, and if you do believe this, listen up. Because this is absolute bullshit. And this has nothing, or very little at least, at the very best, very little to do with selling. So if selling isn't making your product sound good, what is it? What even is selling? Well, to answer this question, let's take a look at some of the best salespeople on the planet. I'm talking about doctors. Now, I know a doctor probably isn't the first person that comes to mind when you hear brilliant salesperson. So why am I mentioning that? Well, because doctors use the exact same framework, the exact same sales formula I'm going to show you in this video. And that is what I like to call the 3-step sales formula, or the 3-level sales formula. So basically, broken down, everything selling is taking people from the first level to the third level. The first level is pain aware. Second level is problem aware. And third level is solution aware. So to give an example of how doctors might use this, let's just imagine you went to the gym and you were training your neck. It's a weird muscle group to train, but some people do train it. So let's just say you went ahead and you did a neck workout. And just like it usually goes, after a couple of days, your muscles are kind of sore around your neck. Whenever you're trying to breathe, maybe you find it a bit difficult, or maybe it hurts a bit. But like usually it goes away. However, this time it's a bit different. Like a couple of weeks go by and your throat or your neck area still kind of hurts, or it aches a bit. So just like any reasonable person, you go to your doctor. That would be stage number 1. You're pain aware. You're aware of the pain you're experiencing. You're aware that there is something wrong with your neck or with your throat, because usually the pain goes away within a couple of days, but this time it's different. So you're aware of the pain, but you're not aware of the reason, the problem yet. So you go to the doctor, and what does he do? He asks you questions. When has this started to happen? You say, ever since I worked out. And he's going to ask you, well, what muscle groups have you been working on? Then you're going to say, yeah, I've been working on my neck muscles. Then he's going to continue asking you questions until he finds out what the problem is. And once he finds out what the problem is, he's going to tell you outright what it is. And then, based on the problem, he's going to give you a solution. So he may say something like, yeah, you went a bit too hard in the gym. Because of that, your muscles are still kind of tight. So here's a muscle relaxing pill. Just pop it twice a day and the pain should fade away, right? And the truth is, most of the time, or most people aren't going to refuse that. And that's just why doctors are such good salespeople, and why this formula is so good. Because, like, most people, when they hear that, they're not going to think to themselves, oh, well, fuck you, doc, you're just trying to sell me some shit. I'm not buying this. Like, they're probably not going to think that to themselves. So, to give you another example, let's just say you were a fitness coach selling to overweight people, selling weight loss. What this formula might look like for you is people are pain aware, so the pain is obviously being overweight, not being able to fit into old clothes, feeling like you have no self control, etc. But the truth is, they probably do not know the problem. And that is where you come into play, where you educate upon the problem. You say, hey, I know you've been experiencing this pain. You feel like you have no self control. You feel like a bag of shit, blah, blah, blah. Well, the reason you struggle to lose weight, or the reason you've tried so many diets and workout plans and nothing has worked, isn't because there's something wrong with the workout plans or because there's something wrong with you as a person, but simply because you were never taught how to stay consistent. So here's the thing, you could have the best workout plan on the planet, the best diet plan on the planet, but if you can't stick with it, how likely are you to actually see the results you want to see? That's right, you're not fucking likely to see them. Like, you see how it transition from pain aware to problem aware, and then that immediately opens up the door for me to say, well, I have a program or mental model which is going to help you stay consistent. Unlike most fitness coaches and weight loss methods, which are hyper focused on the actual diets and the workout plans, we prioritize staying consistent and blah 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 blah. Young as I'm coming up with this from the top of my head. It's not perfect, but I think you get the point. So, like, this is what I'm trying to say to you. 95% of sales is more so about educating people on the problem they are facing rather than making them feel like you have an amazing product. Like, sales isn't about making your product sound good, it's about taking people from pain aware to problem aware and then solution aware, and then showing them how your product delivers on this solution the best, easiest, quickest, simplest, and fastest way possible. Right? Right. Well, now, if you're a logical human being, what you're going to ask yourself is, well, how do we do this? Like, how do we take people from pain aware to problem aware to then solution aware? And again, I have a 3-step formula for this. It's step number 1, motivate, motivate, educate, and then present the offer and close them. Now, just as I said, these first 2 steps, holy smokes, like, this is so horrendous. I just realized how horrendous my handwriting looks. Please excuse me, but like, hopefully you can like forgive my trash dyslexic handwriting. But anyways, motivate and educate. This is going to be like 95% of the sale. Just you talking to people and making them understand how big of a problem or how big of a pain they're currently going through, and then educating them on the problem behind, like why they are going through that pain, and then actually presenting your product and the offer. That is important, but that's just like 5% of the sales. Now, that doesn't mean that this is any less important than these 2 things. If you have a trash offer, chances are you're not going to be able to sell as much. But like, and that's also why I'm considering making a completely separate video on the offer and on objection over handling and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, just drop me a comment, let me know, and I'll make it. But today I'm going to be focusing more so on these first two steps, which is motivate and educate people. So let's just start by addressing step number one, which is motivate, right? Let me try to make it somewhat readable. Motivate. Like, how do we motivate people? Why do we have to do it? And what does it even mean to motivate people? Well, just as I said, people have a pain in their life. And our product is designed to make this pain go away, right? To just poof it out of the air, right? Right. And the bigger the pain, and the bigger the pain, the more we can charge, because if our product takes away more pain, that means it provides more value, and if it provides more value, we can obviously charge more money for it, right? Right. But here's the thing. Pain, like, isn't really a set in stone metric. So if I spend 20 minutes going through and actually asking you, how has this problem, be it being overweight, I don't know, having neck pain, or if you sell, I don't know, um, if you sell business advisory, like, how has this been influencing your day-to-day life? And then I actually make you recall all of the pain you've been going through. So you say, yeah, because of this, because I am so overweight, I struggle in dating, I feel like I have no self-control, my self-image is all messed up, blah, blah, blah. And you just keep naming all the pain. If I then promise to you to make all this pain go away, the perceived value is so much bigger, meaning I can charge more. And the reason it's so much bigger is because I made you internalize the pain. I literally made you feel the pain again. Because if I just say I can you know, help you lose weight, sure, that's half decent. But if I can firstly get you to acknowledge in what ways being overweight has negatively influenced your life, and then I can say, hey, I can take all these negative feelings you're feeling, I can make them go away. Like, that's a fucking 1,000 times more persuasive and 1,000 times more valuable than the first pitch. So how do we motivate people? Now that you know why you do it, to make your offer or whatever you're offering product appear more valuable, like, what we have to ask ourselves is, well, how do we do it? And this actually works on a simple push and pull principle, right? So what do you mean by push and pull? Well, there are different names for this principle. You can also call it the carrot and the stick, but I prefer push and pull. Now, what I mean by this is you present him with both the pain and the pleasure. So you say pain, just as we've discussed. How has this influenced your life? How has being overweight influenced your life over the past few, I don't know, how many years they said they've been struggling with this? Or obviously, if you're making an ad or a presentation, you don't know how long they have been struggling with this. So obviously, there are going to be variations. If you're in a sales call with them, you ask them questions. But if you're actually a one-to-many presentation, filming content, doing presentations like this, you simply say, how has this problem been affecting your life? Or you can also bring on people and they tell you their personal stories, but that's kind of the really the details and the nitty gritty of it. But for now, let's just focus on this principle. So you say, how has this been affecting your life? Well, you couldn't sleep because you felt so shit about yourself. Your self-esteem is so damaged. You feel like you feel like you have trouble dating because no woman wants you because you're so overweight, blah, blah, blah. You just keep stacking on that pain. And then pull, this is where you bring in the pleasure. You say, well, what could your life look like if you didn't or if you weren't overweight? Well, you could get a girlfriend, or at least you would have an easier time getting her. Your self-image would be much better. You would have this and that and that and that. And how would all of these things affect your life? Well, because you have a better self-image, you could thrive, and I don't know, because you have a better self-image, that would even more encourage you to put even more work into your appearance and into your relationship and everything, and then it could just go exponentially, becoming better and better and even better. And what we're doing essentially is, again, making the problem appear way bigger, because on one side we have all of the pain they have to go through because of this problem, because of this issue, and on the other side we have the pleasure they could feel if this issue was alleviated, if it was just gone. And then how can they make this issue disappear? That's right, by buying our product. Now obviously before we can say that, we have to educate them. Step number 2, educate, and then in step number 3 we connect the solution from step number 2 to our product, and then we just sell them to that. Obviously that's what I'm about to show you how to do. So with that being said, let's just get to step number 2. Okay, step number 2, educate people. That's actually half decent. Oh my god, I can't believe I actually didn't make it super ugly. But just got a bit of more water on my t-shirt, excuse me. Anyways, educate people. Now, this step sounds fun and everything, but like in reality, it doesn't mean anything. Like, educate people. But what are we supposed to educate them on? Well, we're supposed to educate them on the solution. Solution, right? The problem and the solution. We're gonna say, supposed to educate them on, hey, the reason you're going through all of that stuff, the reason you're overweight, the reason you struggle with low self-esteem, well, the reason you struggle with low self-esteem is because you're overweight, and the reason you can't stop eating the junk food, you can't stop or you can't control yourself, is because of X, Y, and Z. That is the problem. So we've effectively taken them from pain aware to problem aware. The reason you can't, or the reason you're overweight is because you eat too much. Can we all agree on that? You eat too much and you don't get enough exercising. Right? Can we all agree on that? Yes, we can. Okay. So now we have to ask ourselves, well, if it's that simple, like, why can't you just stop eating and move more, right? Because I'm guessing you've probably heard of that a billion different times, right? Right. But here's the thing. It's not that fucking simple. That's the problem. You see, the reason you keep relapsing and the reason you keep going back to your old ways and the reason you keep eating junk food, even though you know it's bad for you, is because you, I don't know, blah, 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 struggle with consistency, just as I've stated in example number 1. And then we introduce the solution later on. Now, the reason I started with the solution first is because there's something crucial I need to tell you about the solution before we can even talk about the problem. And what is that? That is that your solution to the problem needs to sound new. It needs to sound unique. Why? Because here's the thing. If it doesn't sound unique, they can just go to any other person or any other manufacturer or anyone else who sells the same solution. So what you've effectively done is you went through all of the effort of step number 1, motivating people, and half of step number 2, taking people from, problem aware to, or from pain aware to problem aware, and then you also took them from problem aware to solution aware. You went through all this trouble just for them to go with a competitor. And obviously you do not fucking want this. So just make sure that your solution sounds unique. Keyword sounds unique has nothing to do with it being unique. Those are two completely different fucking things. I actually heard a story once, and I don't know if I should say it because truth is, uh, I'm not so familiar with it, so it could end up that I kind of butcher it and it doesn't end up being 100% just as I said it. So take this with a grain of salt. But I heard a story once in Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets book. So of a guy who basically went into the soap industry, and obviously he was a new product, or I guess he wasn't a product, but he was new in the industry selling soaps. So he had like multi-$100 million competitors which have been in the industry for like decades. So what did he do to differentiate himself? He actually didn't name his products soap, even though they had literally the same function of washing your hands, washing your body, blah blah blah, stuff like that. He didn't name it a soap, he named it a squash or a wash break or something like that. I'm not completely sure, but literally the only difference between his product and the products of the competitors who have been in the industry for so many decades and who have made hundreds of millions of dollars was simply the name, simply the fact that it sounded different. Yet people still bought his product simply because it sounded new, simply because it sounded unique. But again, it wasn't actually unique, it just sounded unique. All of that goes to say that your solution needs to sound unique. Otherwise, people are just going to buy from the competition. I kind of just rambled for way too long. I hope my retention doesn't go to shit because of that. It probably will, but who gives a fuck? Anyway, solution, problem. Okay, so firstly, let's address the problem, right? Because what I essentially said so far is, okay, so here's what you have to do. You have to take them from pain aware to problem aware to solution aware. But he didn't really tell you how to fucking do that. So that's what I'm going to show you. So how do you take people from problem aware or from pain aware to problem aware? Excuse me. Well, that's incredibly simple. You tell stories, right? And why does this matter? Like, why would you tell stories? Like, if you've been in the marketing industry or if you have been watching videos on marketing and selling and VSLs and copywriting, I guess you've heard like a million different people talking about stories. But none of them really care to explain why they matter so much and why they are so powerful. Until your boy over here came along and is about to tell you why stories are so fucking powerful. So I want you to think of your favorite stories growing up. Maybe it was a Disney story, and maybe a Disney princess or Aladdin or whatever it might have been. Or if you're from fucking America, it was probably some Jimmy Neutron or something. But let's stick to the classics, like, you know, Disney stuff and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but all of those stories, Aladdin, Snow White, uh, and damn, I can't believe I actually forgot what other Disney stories there are. Like, that's besides the point. Like, all of these stories in their original form were actually pretty gruesome. And yeah, that's quite of an understatement. Like, in Snow White, the evil witch who tried poisoning Snow White in the end ends up being tortured to death and is forced to dance on the wedding of Snow White and the other prince. And there are also numerous other examples of, characters just dying in the most gruesome gore ways possible. And yeah, these were stories made for kids, for literal children. But why am I even telling you this? Well, it's because I need you to understand something, and that is that these stories, like, when you hear about this stuff, you think to yourself, well, what normal adult would want to tell stories like this, where people are literally dying and being tortured to death, being torn apart to literal kids? But here's the thing, believe it or not, back in like the Middle Ages and old times when these stories were made, people or adults didn't make these stories to entertain kids. They made these stories to educate them on morality, on what they should do and how they should behave. So when there was a witch who was greedy, who was jealous, and she gets fucking torn and tortured to death, like, it kind of signals to your brain, oh, well, if I am jealous of other people and if I behave in a similar way to this evil witch, the same thing is gonna fucking happen to me. Or maybe not the same thing, but it's not gonna end well for me. The same goes for any other story. Like, stories originally, like kid stories, weren't made to entertain children, they were made to educate them and to get them to behave. Right? Right. But why am I even telling you this? Well, it's because humans, adults, behave in the same way. So if you tell an adult a story of how you discovered something, what's going to happen is that, first of all, it's going to be way more entertaining. And if it's way more entertaining, they're going to stick along and they're going to hear you out. Second of all, because it's a story, it transitions from you trying to convince them something, from you trying to push a narrative onto them, to you just telling them what happened and them being able to conclude on their own what they want to believe. And which one of those two do you believe is more persuasive and more powerful? Obviously the second one. And that's why stories are so incredibly overpowered in the marketing. But how do you actually write good stories and how do you actually tell good stories? Well, obviously, you have to not be shit at communications. Like, if you're mumbling over your words and you're like, so basically, guys, so when I was 7 years old, there's this super cool thing that happened to me. Like, if you sound like you're autistic, yeah, like, you need to up your game, right? So, first of all, you need to have a basic understanding of communication. But this doesn't just go for stories. This goes for selling and advertising and stuff like that in general. But when it comes to stories and writing them and telling them in a persuasive way, like, I am actually going to give you a framework, which is uh, just going to be scenario. Wait, I should actually just make numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Yes, this is a 5-step framework. Instead of a 3-step framework, this one is going to be 5 steps. So firstly, there's going to be relatable pain. So what this stage is all about is you showing them, hey, I was in your shoes. You know, hey, you may look at me right now and you see me on Instagram with a six pack and abs and this and that and muscles bulging out everywhere. But the truth is, believe it or not, I wasn't always this way. As a matter of fact, just a couple of years ago, I was in your exact position. I was 20 pounds overweight, shows a picture of you, shirtless, with your stomach hanging out, overweight, unhappy, with the biggest fucking, saddest face on the planet imaginable. I was miserable, just like you. You're not gonna say just like you, but you're gonna name the problem, the pain. You're gonna name the same pain they are going through. This is important. They need to see themselves in you, in the past version of you. That is the key takeaway from step number one. You can say, I was in the exact same position as you, blah, blah, blah. Now, key takeaway, if you weren't actually in the same position as them, doesn't need to be you. Just take some other person you helped or somebody else and say, this guy was in the same position as you. He had to go through pain, blah, 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 blah. And then you go to step number two. You're going to say, past failure, try. And then you're going to say, I tried this and I tried that and I tried this. Like all of the common things they have probably tried before and it didn't work for them. You're going to say, I tried all of those things as well and it also didn't work for me. Or it also didn't work for this one guy, depending on whom the story is based around. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you're telling a story about yourself or about somebody else, this will work. You're going to say, I tried this and I tried this and I tried that, and all of the common methods everybody says get workout, but like for some reason, I just couldn't stay consistent. I would keep relapsing, I would keep doing this and that and blah, 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 blah. And then you transition into like, yeah, this step is kind of, it's actually not necessary, but then you can go again with the pain and you're going to say, but not the original pain, but you're going to say, and because I saw people who were succeeding with this, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was just destined to be, overweight and unhappy. Or sometimes I even went as far as blaming my own biology, saying to myself that, I just had a slow metabolism or this or that. That's objection overhandling. You're saying to them, you know, because they may be thinking the same thing to themselves. They may be thinking, I just have a fat metabolism. There's nothing I can do about it. Then you say, well, I thought the same thing, and then I discovered this, and it actually worked. And then what do they think to themselves? They think, well, holy shit, then it might work for me as well. And that's exactly what you want them to do. So again, guys, you see how it's like the point of these three steps is just to make them see themselves in you. And now comes the important transition. Now comes the solution, like the big drop or the problem. No. So not the solution, but this is where you introduce the problem. The problem and then the solution. Then the solution. So step number 4 might sound something like this. So one night I was just lying on my couch, you know, uh, contemplating my life choices and considering whether I should buy or whether I should order another pizza and a beer from, I don't know, Domino's or whatever the fuck you use in America, or if I should just go to bed. And then somehow this and this happened, and I discovered that the reason I failed, that all of those things I have tried in the past failed, wasn't because of, wasn't because the diet was wrong or because the workout plans themselves didn't work, but simply because I couldn't stay consistent. There was nothing wrong with the workout plans or the diet plan, or with me for that matter, but simply with the fact that I couldn't or didn't know how to stay consistent. Now, very important thing, guys, when you say how you discovered the problem, it is very important that you say that either someone else showed you what's the problem, or you discovered it by simply being observant, by simply observing things and observing your own behavior and the behavior of others, and then you accidentally discovered it. Now, why is this so important? Well, if you say, yeah, and I just figured it out all on my own, people stop seeing themselves in you. Because if they can't figure it out and you can, it means that you're somehow better than them, and people don't fucking want that, and then they kind of start not liking you. And if they don't like you, they don't trust you. If they don't trust you, they don't buy from you. If they don't buy from you, you stay broke. And you do not fucking want it. So either someone else showed you what was the problem, or, you know, you discovered it by being observant and observing your own behavior and the behavior of others. And then you transition into the solution. Then you're going to say, so knowing this, or, with my new discovery, I decided to sit down and think of a logical way to become more, what's it called, consistent. I can't believe I actually forgot the word. And what I found out to be true after trial and error was that the best way to stay consistent isn't by going cold turkey right away. Because what's going to happen inevitably if you do that is you're going to go back to your old ways. Like, inevitably, sure, it might work for a week, or in some rare cases for a month or half a year. But eventually, what's going to end up happening is you will slip back into your old ways. You will grab back the carton of pizza and the beer and find yourself sitting alone at the couch at 2 a.m. watching whatever the fuck you watch, and overindulging in fast food if you quit cold turkey, if you just try to cut it all out from your life. But if instead you take it one step at a time, so if right now you eat 5,000 calories a day, and then for the next week or for the next half a month, you try to decrease that by 500 calories. So instead of 5,000, you eat 4,500. Then the next month, you eat 4,000, and then the next 3,500. Then the next month, 3,000, and the next 2,500, until you only eat 2,000 calories a day, and because you eat so little calories a day, you can actually lose weight, and it feels natural and sustainable because there wasn't such a radical, extreme change, right? That's the solution. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, actually thinking about it, yeah, that's it. And then comes the thing. Wait a minute, which is step number 3 is closed, right? Close and show them your product. Now, again, this is only going to be 5% of the sale. And I could, and I probably will, make a completely separate video on offers, objection over handling, closing people, be it on the phone or on ads or on video sales letters, VSLs, webinars. It's like there are so many things. Just as I said, this applies to anything, emails, ads, stuff like that. And once I'm finished explaining this step to you, I'm going to go more into detail on that stuff, like ads, how to actually hook people in so they don't scroll. Obviously, that's some of the more specific things. I just wanted to get the framework out the way first, because this is something that applies to everything. Be it calls, emails, ads, VSLs, webinars, seminars. Like, this applies to everything, but then after this, we're going to go into more specific things, which might only apply to ads or only to seminars, only to webinars, or only to emails. That way, you can also take that stuff away and you can improve even more after watching this video. But firstly, let's briefly cover this. So the most common close is the two-way path, or something I like to call the two-way path. That's fine. And like, I'm going to say this right now. The most important thing when you're going into the close is to make it appear as seamless as possible. So you do not want people to feel like, oh, or you do not want there to be an extreme cut where you go from educating people and then all of a sudden you go to pitching them and selling them and, doing all of these crazy things. You want to make it gradual. You want to make it smooth. You want to transition into the pitch one step at a time. First you're educating them, blah, 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 and then you kind of hint at your pitch, and then you go back to educate them and hint at your pitch. Educate them, hint, and then more and more it kind of snowballs into your pitch. Obviously, that takes practice and it's not something you're going to be able to do from out the get-go. And depending on what you sell, like, you may not even need to have such a monstrous pitch. But like, I just find that it's the best if I just teach you the most advanced strategy. That way you can take the most from this video, and if it ends up that you don't need the best, most advanced marketing strategy ever, like, you can just tweak it for your own business. Now, with that being said, what even is the two-way path? Well, it's pretty much you saying, hey, you have two paths right now. You can either choose to, do all of these things I've done, and this is actually important, time and money, right? You're not selling people the solution. At this point, you're selling them on time and money. Because what you want to say is, like, listen, man, you could probably find the solution on your own. The only problem is you're going to have to spend a lot of money on, coaching courses and this and that, and time trying to figure this all out. Time reading all the different books, time reading, actually finding the things which are going to get you to that next level, to help you lose weight, to help you fill your business, to help you be a better father, whatever the fuck you're selling. Or if you're selling, like, this actually applies to anything really. And then, like, you can either go through that shit trying to figure it all out on your own, or you can skip all of that and just pay me, I don't know, however much you charge, and you get all of these things, all of this solution right out the get-go. Like, you don't have to waste any of your time. You don't have to spend so much money. I mean, you do have to spend money, but way less than if you were to actually go out on your own and try to find a solution that way, right? Right. And then you also want to include scarcity. So you want to make a limited time offer. That way they're on the fence. Like, if it feels like they can make the decision anytime they want, they're going to think to themselves, you know what? Yeah, this sounds exciting and everything, but like, it's like, I have time. Let me think about it. And what's going to happen when they say I'm going to think about it? They're going to go back to Insta Reels and Minecraft and Clash, playing not 2.9 Expo Cycle, them fucking. Alright. Anyways, sales scarcity, make sure you include that. That way people actually buy right away, because there are actually stakes. If they wait, something bad is going to happen, which is they will have to pay more in the future, and they do not want that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to cover in today's video when it comes to this step, because just as I said, it's like only 5%. I will probably, most likely, make a separate video completely on this, but as for now, let's just get to the other highly specific things, highly specific stuff for ads, emails, webinars, calls, stuff like that. Right, let's do it. Alright, now as you can probably tell, we have somewhat of an atmosphere shift. As you can see, I've changed my clothes. Also, the time of day is different, but that doesn't matter. What we're going to talk about right now, and what this whole section of this video, masterclass training video, is going to be about, is things more so specific. So I preserved this section of the video for things specifically to add, such as, hooking people in. Because if you're in a sales call, you don't need to have a hook that keeps attention. But if you're filming an ad or content or an email, obviously you need to hook people in. So that's exactly what we will start with. Excuse me. I need a layer in my program. I just created two. Anyways, hook. How do we hook people in? That's the first thing we will talk about. So, in order to answer this question, I want to ask quite a fundamental question, which is, what even is a hook? Obviously, it's the words you say that make people interested, that make people curious enough to keep watching the video, but like fundamentally, what is it? How does it work? What is it? And how do we craft a formula that way we can copy and paste and create interest-grabbing hooks? Well, a hook is simply something which, or a sentence which is designed to create multiple burning questions in the viewer's mind, which they cannot stand to leave unanswered. To give an example, if you again are selling a weight loss program, I keep coming back to this example, but the truth is this pretty much applies to anything. If you're selling a weight loss product, one very good hook would be something like, I just lost 20 pounds, or it took me 2 weeks to lose 20 pounds, and I didn't even have to go on a diet, and I did it whilst eating carbs. Now, what's going to happen when somebody hears that, somebody who's overweight, they're going to think, well, wait a minute, how did they lose 20 pounds in such a short period of time whilst eating carbs? Like, eating carbs is supposed to make you gain weight, right? Right, and then you can just get right into it. Or you say, let me explain to you exactly how I did it. And then you go right into it, you bam, and then you give them a CTA. By the way, this is also something I want to talk about. This is something specifically to ads, emails, and content. This is something I love so much. This is something I like to call the lead, actually I haven't given it a name, but I just call it the lead magnet, the lead magnet equation. I'm just gonna AQ, I'm not gonna write equation, but basically what this is you actually giving away value in the ads, in your content, in your emails, etc. Now I know what you're thinking to yourself, but look, if I give away value, isn't it gonna degrade my sales? Depends. If you do it the right way, no, it will actually do the opposite. It will make your sales go through the roof. And why is this? Well, if you teach the right things, there will still be a need for your product. Here's what I mean. If we get back to our example of, overweight guy, you're gonna say, or going back to our hook even, you say, I lost 20 pounds in the last, or it took me 2 weeks to lose 20 pounds, and the crazy thing is, I did it whilst eating carbs every day. Here's exactly, let me break down exactly how I did it. Then you can pull up a chart or a whiteboard just like this one. You break it down. So basically, I ate high carbs food like rice, like pizza, and like hamburgers every single day, yet I still lost weight. You can show screenshots of you. Or you can, again, this is somewhat of a story hook. You can also use a client transformation, or yeah, just a client transformation, or anybody for that matter. Doesn't even need to be related to you. You can just say, this random guy on the internet did this amazing thing in so little time. Let me break down exactly how he did it. Pa 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 pam, pa pam. And then what you're gonna say is like what pa 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 pam is supposed to mean is again the explanation, right? So you're educating people. Again, like I say, deliver value, and what value actually means is education, right? Educating people on the subject. But just as I said, educating people is like 95% of what sales is. So if you educate people the right way, you're literally selling them in the ad without them even noticing. What do you mean by this? Well, going back to our example, uh, just as I said, so it took me 2 weeks to lose 20 pounds. Here's exactly how I did it. So, whilst most people focus on, you know, cutting out carbs and doing this and doing that, I decided to go with a way more sustainable method. I decided that instead of cutting out carbs completely and cutting out the food that I loved completely, because I know where that inevitably leads. I know that it will inevitably lead to me, going back to those foods and I don't know, eating the junk food and finding myself at 2 a.m. staring at the television and eating and ordering a carton of pizza. So what I did instead is I I don't know, I decided to eat the foods I love, but simply decrease the amount of it that I eat. I tracked every single calorie and I did this and I did this, blah, 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 blah. If you want me to show you exactly how you can replicate this exact model, that way you can experience sustainable weight loss just like me and the hundreds of thousands, or okay, that's maybe a bit of an over exaggeration. I don't know if you have such amazing reviews of hundreds of thousands of people who have experienced similar results and who have gone through same or similar transformations. Click the button or the link below and you will find a free training video or a free ebook or a free guide or blah 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 lead magnet. Then again, you like during the lead magnet, sure, you're educating them, but remember what I said, 95% of sales is educating people on their problem and then on their solution. So you can even say, uh, go ahead and click the link to my free webinar where I will teach you exactly how you can do this exact same thing, how you can implement this, blah, 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 blah. Now, obviously, there's way, way more nuance and way more, thought that goes behind this. This isn't just a copy and paste framework I'm just giving you, a copy and paste script. Remember, guys, that's literally what I said at the beginning. I'm not here to give you a script. Like, the truth is, the things I'm telling you, I come up with this from the top of my head. And the truth is, like, whenever I watch the videos back, it doesn't even sound that good. I know you might be sitting there and thinking to yourself, "Oh yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense." But like in reality, the copy, like the things, the words I'm saying to you, are kind of made. But because, like, on the spectrum, kind of made. But because 90% of everything in the industry is worse than made. It's worse than okay, because what I'm telling you is kind of okay, and everything else, 90% of everything else is worse than okay. This sounds fucking amazing. But the truth is, if I had more time and if I could actually go through the process and, you know, thinking through every word that I write, it would sound even better. With that being said, though, I kind of just went off flexing. I just kind of started bragging how amazing I am. I kind of had to, boost my ego there a bit. But anyways, now, but this is important. Remember, hook is simply a phrase you say that is designed to make people, that is designed to make multiple burning questions appear in your prospect's mind. Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due. This isn't actually something I came up with. This is actually something I got from a brilliant marketer, Dan Henry. I don't know if you've heard of him. In case you haven't, make sure to give him a follow, subscribe to his page, because like he also talks about similar stuff to me. And anyways, that's besides the point. Just wanted to give credit where credit is due. Now that we have this like hooks, I give you a hook specific to an ad. If you're looking for a seminar or a webinar or a sales presentation, like the hook needs to be even greater. And why is that? Well, if somebody is on a seminar or a webinar, you're asking them to stay for like a whole hour. Whereas if you're on an ad, you're asking to stay for a couple of minutes. So it only makes sense that you would need a monstrous, way bigger hook for a webinar than you would for an ad. And how do you hook people in? Like, how do you create this monstrous hook? Well, you have to pretty much dedicate the whole first section of your webinar to getting people intrigued, to you know actually getting them excited to learn this and to find a solution to their problems. And the way you achieve this is again through step number one, motivating people. So as you can see, even though these are some highly specific stats, highly specific things, they go back to the base principle, the base formula we've talked about. So now we have Cook, but that still like opens up the question: how do you structure the hook? Well, in my opinion, you need to use stats. So what this means is that you need to make it extreme and show stats showing that it's extreme. So if a hook for an ad on Instagram or on Meta would be something like, uh, "It took me 2 weeks to lose 20 pounds within the last 2 weeks." A hook for a webinar or a seminar may be something like, "I've helped over 1,000 people lose 20," or I don't know how, or no, something way better would be, "I've helped over 1,000 people get into the best shapes of their life in in no in 90 days or less by using this proven formula, or without having without having to sacrifice their favorite foods." Either one of those two. You can even see kind of me thinking through this, because just as I said, like coming up with this from the top of my head. Now that we have that out of the way, what else did I want to talk about? I already said like the second, uh, like the lead magnet principle, which is basically you, like whenever you're educating people, you want to show them the what, right? Right, the what. Now, what this means is that, sure, you show them what it is they need to do. You show them, hey, this is how you need to, you know, you show them what it is they need to do. You tell them, hey, instead of trying to quit junk food cold turkey, or instead of trying to decrease your calories right away, you need to do it step by step. You need to decrease it by 500 at a time, but you don't tell them how to do it, right? You don't tell them what app they need to use to track their food. You don't tell them really the details which they need to succeed with it, because that's what you're going to sell them on, right? Right. With that being said, let me think. Oh, I know exactly. Right. Now, I was just thinking to myself, what else could I say that is highly specific or that I've missed? And I just came up with something, or something that just popped in my mind, that has to do with sales calls in particular. And that is like questions, right? Questions. Now, I don't know if you've heard some of the best speakers on stages, or I don't know how many of you even listen to stage speakers. like some of the best stage speakers on the planet make sure like they make sure that they engage the audience as much as possible. I mean, just go ahead and look at Tony holy smokes, I need some water. I cannot believe I just butchered his name like that. You know I'm talking about Tony Robinson or Jeremy Miner or Russell Brunson, like, or Dan Henry at that point, or Myron Golden, any of these people who are very good at selling from stage. And what you're gonna find out is that they really engage the audience with questions. They ask them, what could what could be the consequences of this for your business, for your family, or for this, for that, blah blah blah. Now, the reason they do this, first of all, it boosts retention. Obviously, if you're in person, retention doesn't really mean that much. If you're online, retention obviously means people don't leave. But not only does it boost retention, it also boosts engagement. And if people are engaging, that also means that they're more likely to buy. And also, there's something called the yes principle, where, like, and Russell Brunson talks about this in one of his books. I'm not sure if it's Expert Secrets or .com Secrets. I think it's Expert Secrets, and he called it something else, but I call it the yes principle, which is basically if you get people to say yes to you once, they're way more likely to say it again. So what some of the top closers, stage closers, people who sell from the stage will do is they will keep asking questions, and people will keep answering yes, 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 yes. That way, people have like already answered 200 questions with yes before they've even been presented with the pitch. And because they've kind of been conditioned for an hour straight to answer everything with yes, they're more likely to say yes when you ask them to commit and to buy your product. And with that being said, uh, what else today? Yeah, questions like why else does it matter that we ask questions on sales calls? Because again, I kind of yeah, I was going to say that this applies to sales calls, and then I kind of went on rambling about webinars and stuff like that because that's kind of what I'm the most passionate about. So excuse me, please. Anyways, like that, you're thinking to yourselves, okay, questions. Holy dyslexia. Hope I did not butcher that. Question. Okay, like now you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, I understand why questions matter in webinars, seminars, online webinars, and blah 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 blah. But why does it matter on an actual sales call? Well, it is because the prospect believes themselves more than you do. And what does this mean? Well, it means that if you go ahead and tell them, well, hey man, if you don't fix this, your family could suffer. You could go through this and through that, and it could have some dire consequences for both you and your family. Like, first of all, they might think you're a fucking asshole for saying that, and second of all, like they will probably act a bit defensive, and they may not even believe you. They may think to themselves, yeah, well, you're just saying that to fucking sell me, so go fuck yourself. Which obviously is not going to help you sell them. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. But if you ask them, hey man, like, okay, thanks for sharing that with me. I'm just kind of curious, like, how would this exactly affect your family? And then they kind of go on, oh, well, now that you mention it, blah 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 blah. It would affect my family in this and this way. And then you ask them something, and I don't know, you maybe ask them to elaborate even further. You ask them, and is that everything? Maybe not the best question. But like, the main thing I'm trying to get over to you is that the reason questions are so powerful is because people believe themselves way more than they do you. And if you can get them to say or to tell you the problem, and more importantly to themselves what the problem is, you're gonna have a way way more easier time selling to them. That being said, that would kind of be it. Yeah. That's it. Yo, congrats on making it till the end of this video. One last message for you if you've made it so far, and that is that if you are somebody, I'm talking specifically an e-com or info business owner doing 50 and upwards, $50,000 a month and upwards, and you're looking to scale your business, and you can see that the things I talk about in my videos, messaging, branding, selling, and all of these strategies I've been sharing with you for the last hour or so are the key to going to that next level you know you deserve to be at. But for some reason, it just kind of doesn't click. You watch the videos and you think to yourself, okay, that's nice, but like, how do we actually implement this into my business? Or, maybe it makes sense, maybe you get it, but like at the same time, you kind of don't. Listen up, because if what I just said resonated with you, I have a special proposal just for you. And that is, I want to work one-on-one with you. I will literally help you implement these exact strategies I've been sharing with you for the past hour or so and more, so that we can potentially see rapid growth. So if that's something you potentially seem interested in, go ahead, scroll down and open up the description of this video. In there you will find a link, literally the first link you find. Click on that, and that's going to take you to a form you can fill out, and at the end of that form you can book in a call with us. We'll take a look at what you gave us, the survey, how you filled it out, and based on that we will tell you whether or not we can help you. Sound fair enough? Okay, then see you at the end of it.